Hello, it's almost time for the announcement for the International Booker Prize, and since it's been live streamed, I thought we could watch it together and you could see my live reaction. So I've got all 6 books here. One of these books is going to be announced as the winner, and I have my own personal favorite and prediction for what I think will win and what I think should win. But I also, before I get into that, I have a special bottle of peach on the beach, just to make it a more celebratory occasion. So I'm gonna open that up and have a glass. It should be starting any minute now. People are starting to chat and in the chat box and talk about who they think will win. Ooh. Very classy. This drink is so sweet. I love it. I think it's really good. So cheers, and have a little sip first. Yes, so sweet. And so out of the 6 books, I have read 3 and a bit of them, because there are some quite long books on the list, and I've been busy reading other things and doing work, and so yeah. But I have read one of the big ones. I just finished Tomb of Sand just recently, and yeah, it's been taking up a lot of my time in the past few weeks. Really worth it, I think. But yeah, I think it's a great read. There were some bits of it which dragged a bit for me, but like overall there were so many parts of it that I loved, and I loved the innovation and creativity of the narrative voice of it. Yeah, and so I also read Elena Knows and Heaven and some of the stories in Cursed Bunny, which is why I've read 3 and a bit. And so, you know, this isn't totally authoritative of my, because yeah, haven't had time to read the books of Jacob. It's so long, and I've heard it's very detailed, quite complicated, so I do really want to read it. And especially after going to the shortlisted readings for the International Booker the other day, where there was a really beautiful passage that was read out. Olga Tokarczuk wasn't there, but she'd recorded reading from it, which yeah, sounded so beautiful and moving and really insightful. And so yeah, I do want to read it at some point, but I'm gonna need some time to dedicate to it. And yeah, and I've just not got a chance to read A New Name yet, because I haven't read the 2nd book in the series yet before getting to this 3rd book in the trilogy. So out of the ones I have read, I think I am rooting for Elena Knows to win, even though I did, yeah, like I said, love so many parts about Tomb of Sand. I just think as a whole novel, Elena Knows is more accomplished and a much more satisfying read. I was totally gripped throughout all of it, which I can't quite say for Tomb of Sand. I mean, I think that would be almost impossible to do for a novel this long. And you know, even though a lot of people said that, you know, there are some blank spaces in it, and so, you know, it's not quite as long as it looks, but it's still quite a long book. It's 730 pages or so. And another really fascinating thing about going to the shortlist prize readings was because the author and the translator were there, and there was the Hindi version of the novel there, which is about half the size of this English version. So I don't know quite how that worked, or if the translator added a lot more text to the book, or yeah, what happened there. But yeah, it ended up being a much larger book. I mean, maybe just the font size was a lot smaller in the Hindi version, but yeah, I think it is definitely worth reading. Such a fascinating book. But yeah, and Cursed Bunny, I am enjoying the stories so far. I think you need a strong stomach to read these stories. From the first couple stories I read, they're quite it's quite detailed about the workings of the human body. Let's just say that. So yeah, I think you need a strong stomach for that. I do really appreciate the absurdity and weirdness of these stories. But yeah, I need to be in a certain frame of mind to read them. So it is interesting. I think a lot of people are rooting for this to win, and it would be really fascinating if a book of short stories won the International Booker Prize. I don't think that has happened yet. And especially to beat out such other like big, huge novels. So yeah, I think it is really tough to call who is going to win this year. I know a lot of people are rooting for Tomb of Sand, and I would be really happy to see that win as well. But yeah, I think Elena Knows just tips it over just a little bit more. And of course, Olga Tokarczuk has won the prize before and the Nobel Prize for Literature. So, but then it could be a curveball. It could be Mieko Kawakami. So, which I wouldn't be so mad about either. Even though, looking at all the books, it's probably not my favorite book on the list, though it's such a moving novel. But I do sort of wonder if a reread, if it would stand up as well as, because the first time I read it, it was so emotional that, if I had a bit more emotional distance from it, would I feel so strongly for it. But anyway, I'm gonna have another drink and wait for the prize to start, because we're back in the waiting game of waiting for it to actually start. Just type in my favorite to win. I meant to write Elena Knows to win, but I typed Elena Knows go any minute now. Wow, there's somebody watching in from Korea. Yeah, it must be very early in the morning there. There are 307 of us waiting for it to start. So I was invited to come to be in the press room to wait for the announcement to happen. And then they said you would be able to go in and see the live announcement taking place over a few minutes. But I just sort of felt like sitting in a press room all evening wouldn't be all that much fun. I'd rather just be at home with my very sweet liquor.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 International Booker Prize Virtual Award Ceremony. I'm Nikki Beattie, BBC presenter and broadcaster, and I'll be your host for the evening as we celebrate world-class translated
Oh, there's a
fiction
countdown
with
timer.
viewers
That's
from
very
around the
good.
globe.
Okay, so
We'd love to
apparently
hear from you,
it's
so please
almost
do leave
18
your
minutes
comments in
away.
the box on your... Shortly, we'll be hearing from Frank Wynne, chair of this year's judges,
She has very
who's
big
live
eyes.
here at 1 Marylebone in London this evening. Frank will be announcing the winning author and translator, or translators, who will be splitting the
2 translators for
£50,000 prize
Kawakami.
money tonight. But first, let's revisit the wonderful shortlist, all of whom will be receiving £2,500 for making it
That's
to this
really
point.
great.
For those who need a recap of the 6 shortlisted books, they are Cursed Bunny, written by Bora Chung and translated from Korean into English by Anton, published by Honford Star. A New Name, Septology 6 to 7, written by Jon Fosse and translated from Norwegian by Damion Searls, published by Fitzcarraldo Editions. Heaven by Mieko Kawakami, translated from Japanese by Sam Bett and David Boyd, published by Pan Macmillan Picador. Elena Knows by Argentinian author Claudia Pineiro, translated from Spanish by Francis Riddle, published by Charco
Yay,
Press.
go Elena Knows!
Tomb of Sand, the first Hindi book to be shortlisted for the Booker, written by Geetanjali Shree and translated by Daisy Rockwell, published by Tilted Axis Press. And The Books of Jacob, by 2018 International Booker Prize winners Olga Tokarczuk and translator Jennifer
Could
Croft.
she win again?
Olga also won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2018 for
And just
her
pile
book
on the
Flights,
awards.
which was also translated from Polish into English. Also published by Fitzcarraldo Editions. That's enough from me. Let's hear from the authors and translators themselves, along with some very special readings performed by actors who bring the books to life. Here's Bora Chung and Anton with a reading from Cursed
I do love
Bunny,
the t-shirts they've made of like Team Cursed Bunny.
This book is a genre-defying collection of short stories which blur the lines between magical realism,
Love all the rabbit
horror,
emojis people
and
are putting
science
for
fiction.
Cursed Bunny.
They are not exactly science fiction. They can be categorized somewhere between horror
Say
and
more horror.
speculative fiction. There's only one
At least the ones
real
I've read so
sci-fi
far.
story. Most of them are like fairy tale, but with a little bit of modern Korean twist. I would like to think of it that way.
When I first read Bora's text, I think my eyes basically widened and turned all glittery because I was convinced that, oh, this is something that I want to translate. I was ready to pounce on the book. Kind of like how I imagine a tiger's eyes would be when they see an actual bunny in the wild. They're like, oh, okay, that's going to be something that I'm going to go after. Because her sentences were so beautiful and her stories were just so fantastic. I just couldn't wait to get my hands on them.
Oh.
She was about to flush the toilet. Mother, she looked back.
This is terrifying. Oh, the story.
The toilet calling for her.
Ooh.
Mother. The woman looked at it for a moment. Then she flushed the toilet. The head disappeared in a rush of water. She left the bathroom. A few days later, she met the head again in the bathroom. Mother! The woman reached to flush the toilet again. The head sputtered, no, just a minute. The woman stayed her hand and looked down at the head in the toilet. It was probably more accurate to refer to it as a thing that vaguely looked like a head than an actual head. It was about 2/3 the size of an adult's head and resembled a lump of carelessly slapped together yellow and grey clay with a few scattered clumps of wet hair. What in bloody hell are you? The woman demanded.
So creepy. Ah. Oh, it's great that it's on here.
Now we'll hear from author Jon Fosse and translator Damion Searls about a new name, Septology 6-7, a transcendent exploration of the human condition and a radically other reading experience.
I do really want to read the other two books. It's just it's going to take me time. I want to take time to really concentrate on them, you know?
The writing itself is that which inspires me. I don't get inspired by this or that outsider writing. When I'm writing, I concentrate completely, more or less, on what I'm working on. One page takes the next in a flow. If I get into that kind of flow, it writes itself, more or less.
I'm always suspicious of authors that say their books write themselves.
Because it's all done in the language of the writing. It's his longest work, and I think the longer the better for him, because his writing always builds in these sort of waves of moving back and forth and kind of touching on different things and connecting them to other things, only builds over the course of whatever his writing is, whether it's a story or a novella or a novel, or in this case, a triple septuple novel.
Septuple novel.
And I see myself standing there, looking at the two lines that cross in the middle, one brown and one purple, and I see that I've painted the lines slowly with a lot of thick oil paint, and the paint has run, and where the brown and purple lines cross, the colours have blended beautifully, and I think that I can't look at this picture anymore. It's been sitting on the easel for a long time now, a couple of weeks. Maybe, so now I have to either paint over it in white or else put it up in the attic, in the crates where I keep the pictures I don't want to sell. But I've already thought that thought day after day, I think, and then I take hold of the stretcher and let go of it again, and I realise that I, who have spent my whole life painting, oil paint on canvas, yes, ever since I was a boy, I don't want to paint anymore, ever. All the pleasure I used to take in painting is gone.
Ooh. Happened to
Over to author Mieko Kawakami and Sam Bett, who translated this book alongside David Boyd. Told through the eyes of a 14-year-old boy subjected to relentless bullying, this is a haunting novel of the threat of violence that can stalk our teenage years. The reading from heaven is performed by Chung.
Oh my God, this is gonna make me cry.
Heaven にはすごく追い詰められた過酷な状況を生きる14歳の男の子と女の子が出てきます。で、その非常に限界的な状況を強いられた時に何が救いになって何が混乱して何が分からなくなっていくか、そういったことをしっかり 書きたいなと思って書いた小説です。
Finding that headspace of being that age and not allowing, I don't know, the things that maybe I've learned or David has learned or even the things that Mieko has learned to overly, I'd say, affect the voice, because we did want to retain that pre-adult kind of voice that is really up against the kind of edge of adulthood but not quite yet pushed into it.
One day, toward the end of April, between classes, I unzipped my pencil case and found a folded triangle of paper between the pencils. I unfolded it to see what was inside. We should be friends. That's all it said. Thin letters that looked like little fish bones, written in mechanical pencil. I quickly folded it up and slid it back into my pencil case. Taking a breath, I paused a second before looking around the room as casually as possible. Same group of classmates joking around and howling, the usual break between classes. I tried to calm myself down by repeatedly straightening my textbooks and notebooks. Then I sharpened a pencil, taking my time. Before long, the bell rang for third period. Chair legs screeched across the floor. The teacher walked into the room, and class began.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. It really gets to me. Oh gosh, that like tender emotional age where the classroom is your whole world.
Joining the ceremony to find out the winners. Before then, here's Claudia Pineiro with translator Francis Riddle talking about Elena Knows, a unique story that interweaves crime fiction with intimate tales of morality and the search for individual freedom. Actor Helen Schlesinger performs the reading.
Cuando escribí la novela, era bastante disruptivo hablar del aborto en la Argentina y en los términos en que habla la novela, y sobre todo de esta posibilidad de una mujer de decir no quiero tener un hijo, no quiero ser madre, quiero tener otro tipo de vida. Eso no era tan común, no era común. Si bien por supuesto que había literatura al respecto, no era un tema que se hablara.
It's amazing that
Elena Knows is about a woman named Elena who has advanced Parkinson's disease and whose daughter was found hanging from the church bell tower. It's an open and shut case of suicide as far as everyone is concerned, but Elena knows that's not possible. Claudia's writing is impeccable, so pretty much everything was perfectly clear and I didn't have to bother her with a single question. But the biggest challenge probably was just living through a day in the life of Elena, over and over, translating it. You have to read it several times, and it's kind of hard to go through all those details of her grief and her suffering so many times.
Rita was found hanging from the church belfry, dead, on a rainy afternoon. That, the rain, Elena knows, is an important detail. Even though everyone says it was suicide. Friend or not, everyone says so. But as much as they try to convince her, or remain silent, no one can refute the fact that Rita never went near the church when it even threatened rain. She wouldn't be caught dead there, her mother would have said if anyone had asked her before. But she can't say that now, because there she was, that lifeless body that was no longer her daughter, hanging from the belfry one rainy day, although no one could explain how she'd got there. Rita had been afraid of lightning ever since she was a little girl, and she knew that the cross on top of the church attracted it. It's the town lightning rod her father had taught her, without knowing that this passing comet would keep her from going anywhere near the place in stormy weather.
It's so amazing because it's a mystery, but it's so much more. It's really gripping mystery, but
Winners of the International Booker Prize have come from Korea, Israel, Poland, Oman, the Netherlands and France, to name a few countries in recent years. But Tomb of Sand is the very first book written in Hindi and translated into English to be shortlisted. We hear from Geetanjali Shree and translator Daisy Rockwell, along with Anjana Vasan, who will read from the book. This is an urgent yet engaging protest against the destructive impact of borders, whether between religions, countries, or genders.
Yeah, it is so good.
I think all languages have within them the possibility of crossing borders, and reinventing words, borrowing words, and doing wordplay and being adventurous.
There's so much wordplay in this book.
As much as Hindi, surely. I mean, English is a large language, and just as we say about Hindi, there is no single one Hindi. There are so many Hindis. I think one says the same about English.
Tomb of Sand is a huge book, not just in its length, but in its scope. It's about families, it's about mothers and daughters, it's about the partition of India and Pakistan, and above all it's about borders and walls, and about language, about the Hindi language. Geetanjali Shree loves the Hindi language, and Tomb of Sand is kind of a love letter to the Hindi language.
A tale tells itself. It can be complete, but also incomplete, the way all tales are. This particular tale has a border and women who come and go as they please. Once you've got women and a border, a story can write itself. Even women on their own are enough. Women are stories in themselves, full of stirrings and whisperings that float on the wind, that bend with each blade of grass. The setting sun gathers fragments of tales and fashions them into glowing lanterns that hang suspended from clouds. These too will join our story. The story's path unfurls, not knowing where it will stop, tacking to the right and left, twisting and turning, allowing anything and everything to join in the narration. It will emerge from within a volcano, swelling silently as the past boils forth into the present, bringing steam, embers, and smoke.
That is beautiful. It is so packed full of meaning, and the way it flits between different narrators and points of view and perspectives.
And now, The Books of Jacob, written by Olga Tokarczuk and translated by Jennifer Croft, with a reading performed by Sean Phillips.
Jennifer
This
Croft,
novel is a portrayal of
who wasn't at the readings the other day because she was giving birth.
Precipitous change, searching for certainty and longing for transcendence.
W związku z tym przez 2-3 lata podróżowałam śladami Jakuba Franka po całej Europie. Wszędzie starałam się zwracać uwagę na te rzeczy, które szczególną rolę mają w powieści. Te, które pozwalają powieści w jakiś sposób uprawdopodobnić te wszystkie wydarzenia, które są opisywane, a więc smaki, zapachy, rodzaj światła, te detale, które są związane z podstawową jakością naszego życia. I myślę, że to była jedna z najbardziej barwnych i godnych zapamiętania przygód w moim życiu.
The Books of Jacob is Olga's magnum opus. It is the 900-page saga of Jacob Frank and his followers. It's a kind of loving reconstruction of a world.
When Kosakoshka fell asleep, Agnieszka and Družbaka got to work on the bloodied clothing with its vast crimson patches, starting with her underwear, her petticoats and her skirt, finishing with her navy blue coat. How many such bloodstains does a woman see over the course of her lifetime, wonders Družbaka. There is a particular kind of science that exists on these sorts of estates, the science of coaxing out bloodstains. For centuries it has been taught to future wives and mothers. If a university for women ever came about, it would be the most important subject. Childbirth, menstruation, war, fights, pogroms, forays, raids, all of it sheds blood, ever at the ready, just beneath the skin. What to do with that internal substance that has the gall to make its way out? What kind of lye to wash it out? What vinegar to rinse it with? When the doctor leaves, both women, Družbaka and Agnieszka, sleep.
Oh, it's almost time, 45 seconds away. Gonna have a top up.
What a fantastic shortlist. Congratulations to all the authors and translators. I do not envy the judges, who will by now have had to decide who the 2022 winners are. The judges this year included author and academic Merve Emre, writer and lawyer Bettina Gappa, writer, comedian and TV, radio and podcast presenter Viv Groskop, and translator and author Jeremy Chang. For the first time, The panel was chaired by a translator, Frank Wynne, who will now join live here at 1 Marylebone in London.
Let's face it, nobody here wants this to be a long speech, and if you could, you'd all press fast forward, the suspense would be over, the decision would be announced, and we could move on
Going
to
full screen.
and the commiserations. Looking out, I can dimly see the beating heart of literature in Britain. It takes a figurative village to publish books in translation. The authors, the translators who champion them, the agents, publishers, editors, copy editors, and reviewers, all of whom share a common goal: to bring remarkable books to readers and readers to remarkable books. The International Booker Prize exists only because of such passion and tenacity, and I thank all of you. Agreeing to be a Booker judge is madness, and so I offer my immense gratitude and...
How many books is there? Like almost 130 that they all
my
read?
fellow judges, if you could all stand, please.
It's a crazy amount. Yay.
Merve Emre, Bettina Gappa, Viv Gross.
Okay, I can't keep holding these up. It's too heavy.
We've got 3 minutes, kids. Their enthusiasm, candor, insight, and unfailing good humor greatly enhance the joys of spending a year in the company of extraordinary writers and translators. On their behalf, I would like to thank the Booker Prize Foundation for this honor, Gabby Wood, the incomparable Fiametta Orocco, all at 4 Communications, especially Dottie, and Truda Spruit,
Yay, Truda.
for skillfully... for skillfully managing what in Ireland we refer to as minding mice at a crossroads. Fiction is the most intimate of all arts, the only one in which we can truly inhabit another mind. Literature can and should challenge our certainties, test our empathy, exhilarate and terrify, stimulate and unsettle. It has never been bounded by borders. For as long as writers have told stories, translators have brought them to the world. As José Saramago said, writers make national literature, translators make universal literature.
That's great. I hadn't heard that quote before.
Translators matter. This is something that bears repeating in the somewhat solipsistic Anglophone world. Without them, bookshelves would be laid waste, stripped not only of the Iliad, the Eddas, the Mahabharata, the Tale of Genji, but even the Arthurian cycle, the quintessential matter of Britain, since it's fashioned from a patchwork of translations from French, German, Breton, Cornish, and Welsh. And don't even get me started on Shakespeare's plays. If, as Ezra Pound claimed, a great age of literature is perhaps always a great age of translations, we are living through a remarkable era. The 7 gifted translators on this shortlist have brought us works by 6 outstanding writers. Bora Chung's disturbing yet eloquently human stories are brought viscerally to life by the startling talent of Anton. Fosse's numerous sinuous sentences slowly unfurl in Damion Searls' shimmering English. Mieko Kamakawi's intense claustrophobic novel is retold with harrowing humanity by Sam Bett and David Boyd. Claudia Pineiro's poignant exploration of frailty and loneliness is conjured in Francis Riddle's powerful yet sparing translation. Geetanjali Shree's joyous cacophony is captured in the playful poetics of Daisy Rockwell, and Olga Tokarczuk's dazzling epic, with its delicate irony and motley characters, is reborn in Jennifer Croft's lithe, elegant translation. Deciding on a long list and then a short list from the 135 books the jury read this year,
let's not forget Love in the Big City.
Choosing a single book from
such
among
an amazing
them
novel.
has been agonizing. The winner of the 2022 International Booker Prize is Tomb of Sand, Geetanjali Shree, translated by Daisy Rockwell.
Wow!
Yay!
She did do it! Wow, that is awesome. Such a fascinating novel. I mean, it is long. It takes a lot of dedication and concentration. But yeah, there is so many wondrous things in this book, and a lot of pleasure and fun to be had. But you know, there are some sections which drag a bit more. But yeah, as a whole, it is absolutely fascinating. And the end is really emotional and gripping. it went to a place that I wasn't really expecting, and so fascinating. So yeah, I mean it's not just a page length.
Geetanjali, you need to come here now.
She's so busy hugging people.
You can kiss and hug later.
That's great. Get to the stage.
Come.
Come on.
Must
You need
stop
to get
and the
this.
award must be given. Geetanjali,
That's so sweet. Yay. Oh, I must be so happy. So good. Here they come. Yay. Love that green dress. Yay! And I couldn't even imagine beginning to translate this. It's so complex and vast, the story in this. It's how do you do that? And I would love to know from somebody that has read both the Hindi version and this version of like how they differ, and is there a lot more detail in this? And yeah, that'd be so fascinating to know. Oh, yay!
And will you both come and say a few words?
And well done for Tilted Access Press.
I'll hold that for you.
Don't drop it. It's glass, it'll break.
I'm not sure I heard right.
It's real.
I was told this is London and I should be prepared for everything. It might rain, it might snow, there might be clouds, there might be the sun. There might be the booker. Come prepared.
Has she prepared?
So I did.
Yes.
But I think
well
I'm
done.
not prepared still. I'm completely overwhelmed.
Oh.
But I do have a few words I wrote just in case.
Good thing you did.
So I'm going to read that out.
Oh.
This is a bolt from the blue, but what a nice one, and I'm still reeling. I never dreamt of the booker and never thought I could. What a huge recognition. I'm amazed, delighted, honored, and humbled.
Oh.
I want to start by thanking the Booker Foundation and the Booker jury for choosing this book. There is a melancholy satisfaction in the award going to it. Ret Samadhi, Tomb of Sand, is an elegy for the world we inhabit, a laughing elegy that retains hope in the face of impending doom. The Booker will surely take it to many more people than it would have reached otherwise. That should do the world no harm. Ever since the book got longlisted, much has been written about Hindi making it for the first time. It feels good to be the means of that happening, but it also obliges me to emphasize that behind me and this book lies a rich and flourishing literary tradition in Hindi and in other South Asian languages. World literature will be the richer for knowing some of the finest writers in these languages. The vocabulary of life will increase from such an interaction. I thank my Hindi publisher, Ashok Maheshwari, for bringing this book out. And equally, I want to thank my English publishers.
I wonder if Deborah Smith is there. Hey, Tilted Access.
At Tilted Access, Deborah, Kristen, and Hannah Sabah for taking this forward.
Oh.
And where would any of us be without Daisy, who has given this book?
Yay!
It's English incarnation, making it accessible for all of you. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you. Thank you.
That's so sweet.
I also want to thank my French translator, Annie Monteau, who was the first who read the book and decided that she would gift it to the world in French translation. My personal debts are many. To my 95-year-old mother, who is clapping for me in faraway India. And my husband, Sudhir, who's here with me, as always, though he could not travel physically to London. My little sister and my littler nephew, they're quite big, who are here to share this moment with me. And my family and friends sitting in several continents, but with me, and as happy as me at this moment. Finally, and most importantly, I wish to say very clearly that I know this is not about Booker, Booker on the wall, who's the best of us all. I know I'm in the midst of the best, many of them, sitting here and elsewhere, and it is only that the configuration of stars so turned that a light from it caught me in its glow at this right moment. I'm lucky, honored, humbled. Thank you.
That was so lovely. Oh, what a great speech. Yay.
Thank you. I just jotted down some notes because I've been feeling very superstitious lately, and I felt like if I wrote a speech, I would jinx myself. So I'm going to mostly just give thanks. So my first thanks is to the Booker judges, and I can't even believe the feat of reading 135 books. It's beyond my comprehension.
135, yeah.
I think all of us on social media
some of them this long.
Those of us on social media have seen what that means by when we saw Merve's tweet of all the books with the spines hidden on her coffee table, which was made of glass. So that's the image in my mind when I think of what you had to do, and I'm so thankful that, considering how many books you had to read, you chose to read our rather chunky text and allow it to rise to these heights. So thank you so much.
It's so emotional.
I'd like to thank Tilted Axis people who have been with us all week, and our wonderful publisher Kristen Alfaro, and then Saba Mahmood and Hannah Sandhu. But of course, the originator of this project was Deborah Smith, who was the first winner of this award.
Wow.
So Deborah was the one that decided she'd read a translation of something else by Geetanjali, and she just had heard about this book, Vait Samadhi, and she wanted to find a translator for it. So, like many successful Indian couples, we had a matchmaker, and that matchmaker was Arunava Singha, the prolific Bengali translator who absolutely deserves to be up here one day. And so, Arunava, thank you. I'd like to also thank my wonderful agent, Kanishka Gupta, who is watching this right now. So. I'd like to thank my husband, Aaron, and my daughter, Serafina, for putting up with me as I work through this project. To my parents-in-law and sister-in-law, because I am also like a good Indian bahu, and I brought my pura sasural leke aayi. And they have been very good luck for me. Then I'd like to also thank those who could not travel with me. My 90-year-old father, not as old as your mother, but still as enthusiastic, from his easy chair in Massachusetts. And to my 3 cats who would prefer not to get on a plane and fly. That is Jenny Linsky, Princess Leia, and Madame Butterfly.
There's a cat called Princess Leia. Wonderful.
And then I want to thank the people whose company we've been in for the last week, because it's just been such a wonderful experience. It's like belonging to a wonderful club. And I especially want to mention the shortlisted authors. As a painter, I have these images in my mind from each book, so I'm going to read them out. From Claudia Pineiro, the nameplate and the bell tower. These are the images in my mind. Jan Fosse's crossing paint lines, the brown and the purple, and that little dog, who I'm very attached to. Olga's Yente sleeping in a cave. Mieko's pencil case, and those paintings that they go to see in the museum, which to me sound like sort of Marc Chagall paintings. That's how I see them in my mind. And then last but not in any way least, Bora's head in the toilet. Not Bora's head, but the head in the toilet, written about by Bora. And of course the unforgivable cursed bunny, which our family all pronounces it that way, and apparently no one else does. So I love the cursed bunny. And then last but not least, my fellow translators who I've loved meeting and talking to. Anton, Francis, Damion, Sam, and David. It's been a marvelous club to join, and I hope that the club lives on after this week, because you're all very special to me.
Do a world's tour. That's great. So lovely.
Don't forget the check.
Wow, they get the check right there and then.
Congratulations to Daisy and to Geetanjali. And they will now be busy doing press interviews. I hope that you have all had a wonderful evening. Please enjoy the rest of it. Thank you so much and good night.
Yay!
Wow, what fantastic winners. Huge congratulations to them. And I'm looking forward to hearing what happens next for them. They will, of course, split the £50,000 prize money equally between them. And if you haven't read the winning book yet, please do pick up a copy at your local bookstore or online. And if you get the chance, I highly recommend you read all of the shortlist. You can see the 2022 International Booker Prize winners at the Hay Festival, so do visit the Hay website for more information and to book your places.
Well, it's a good thing that I just read this book, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's not just the page length, but it is very detailed. There's a lot in this book, and so I really took my time with it and have really literally been reading it over the past few weeks. And normally I read multiple books a week, and not one's quite this long, but still I would normally read a book like this faster, but it's just it was so detailed, and there's a lot packed into it that I just took it slowly and was enjoying it. And I think it's really worth doing that with this book, because to get the full experience of it. And I mean, I'm sure there was a lot that I missed and that went over my head, but still I did try to take my time with it. Every once in a while I would look up a word because it uses a lot of Hindi words in here as well, or terms or references to things that I personally wasn't familiar with, and so would look it up, and that would take me down a little rabbit hole, little cursed rabbit hole to no, not cursed, but to find out more information about this and get a richer picture of the story. And so that really enhanced the experience of it, so I think it's really worth doing that. But it is a time-consuming process, and a book that I think you need to really be patient with to get the full round experience of, but there's a lot of joy and fun to be had in it. So yeah, I'd love to know what you think of this book, if you've read it. If you've read the Hindi version as well as this version, please let me know about how they compare to each other. I think that would be so fascinating. But if you have any thoughts or feelings about this book, please let me know that in the comments below. Or if you're interested in reading it now, please let me know. And yeah, let me know what you think of the winner. Are you happy? Are you disappointed? Was there another book that you were really rooting for? Yeah, let me know, and we can have a chat and continue talking about it in the comments below. But yeah, thank you for joining me in the winning prize ceremony, and for a very sweet glass of cocktail. But yeah, I hope you're doing well, and have a good evening, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.